No, I guess you could say one of the biggest questions that you will see most people asking is whether the Roswell crash actually happened or really was a weather balloon that crashed in the Nevada desert. And I will go ahead and answer that for you now. And this is an answer that I think most of us already know, especially most die-hard researchers know in their hearts to be truth, is that an alien craft did crash in Roswell. Well, it actually wasn't actually in Roswell. It was actually 15 or 20 miles outside of Roswell. But the craft did crash. There were alien bodies recovered from the craft. It was a disc-shaped craft. We did take the bodies to a base in Fort Worth, Texas. General Ramey did come to the crash site. He is the man you will see in many of the Roswell photos taken that day of the men holding up the remains of the weather balloon. These are staged photos, of course, and General Ramey you will see dressed up in his fatigues, and he's holding the famous Ramey memo. Now, if you haven't heard of the Ramey memo, it's a letter that you will see in most of these photos where General Ramey is present. It is in General Ramey's hand, and in all of the photos except one, the letter is turned away. But there is one photo, and you can look this up and find it online. There's one photo where the letter is actually turned almost completely toward the camera. And in the photo, you can see General Ramey sort of hunched over with this letter in his hand, looking over as a few other military men are holding up the remains of this failed weather balloon. Well, a few years back, a man named Dave Rudiak, who was a researcher for the International UFO Museum, and was also head of the computer department of the university in Roswell, and also spent time in the Army as a cryptographer. He took that letter from that photograph and decoded most of the message that was visible on it. And this is one of the biggest smoking guns, although the story has actually been greatly ignored, which is kind of sad for the whole UFO community, because this really is a smoking gun. You may be able to find videos online. I believe Sci-Fi did a video with a segment with Dr. Rudiak, and you will see that he decoded the message on it and made out many words such as disc, victims of the wreck, transporting the victims to Fort Worth, and other words that were made out. He basically took the letter, enlarged it with computer graphic software, and matched the types together and came out with the correct letters. And again, there are videos on it online where you can go and see the segments. The photograph was taken on July 8th, 1947 by a news photographer for a newspaper, Bond Johnson, I believe his name was. He still has the original negative of that photo. I don't know if we'll ever get the actual copy of that released. But in regards to the crash, it did happen. To my knowledge, 3 alien bodies were taken. They were what we would call grays. Grays, an interesting thing about grays, there are 2 distinct races, if you will, of gray aliens. Well, I don't know if you would call the second one really a race, seeing as that they are not actually alive, but are actually created. They are machines. They are robots, if you will. They are cyborgs. I'll try to explain it a little bit more in depth for you, but there are two kinds of alien grays, which is, the alien type with the big elongated head, large black eyes, small nose, small mouth, small body, short, 3 to 4 feet tall. There are two races. The actual race of grays are, for the most part, benevolent. They do not mean any harm. They are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years ahead of us. They do fly in disc-shaped craft, as well as others, but mostly smaller disc-shaped craft, which fit their body types perfectly. Many of the UFOs that we have seen on video with discs, including photographs, are in reality real. They are real crafts, although it's hard to tell which photographs are fact or faked, but many of them, and I've seen many copies of them, photographs showing these disc-like objects. There is also video from the Roswell crash showing the bodies of the aliens. That too I have seen, and that footage is being kept locked inside a vault at Langley, never to be seen again. Now, as I said, the alien race of grays is, for the most part, benevolent. They have visited the Earth and will continue visiting. They actually made their presence known in the 50s, not too long after Roswell, to the world governments. And at that time, the alien beings made, I guess you could say, an agreement or contract, if you will, even though there's not any real way to make a contract or anything like that with alien beings, but there was an agreement made with these alien grays and the world's major governments that these beings could come and take a certain preset amount of people and plants and animals to do research on. And in return, they would give the governments access to their technology. The agreement was not upheld. The world governments did not stick to their agreement. The agreement was also that the world governments would eventually, at a set date, have to reveal that the presence of aliens is a reality to the world. They needed to disclose that information, and the world governments disobeyed that, and to this day have not revealed that aliens do exist and there is life out there. And so the alien beings demanded that if the world governments did not reveal this information to the world, to the public, that the beings would reveal it themselves. They would reveal themselves, and they would do this by appearing in large metropolitan cities all over the world in large fleets of ships and discs, so it would be impossible for anyone to deny the fact that they existed. They would show themselves all over the world because, according to the Greys, the world is on it's basically on the brink of entering a new age and a new dimension and a new state of being. We are getting smarter, we're growing as a race, we're growing as a planet, and it's time for the planet as a whole to take the next step into basically what we call a Type 1 planet. Right now we're a Type 0 planet, but we are on the brink of becoming a Type 1 planet, and according to the Greys, for the world to make that transition, we as mankind would need and basically have a right to know that there is life and that these beings are visiting us. They specifically told the world governments that they needed to tell the public that there is life out there in the universe and to explain to the public the real origins of mankind, where we truly come from, how we got here, because the true history is a lot different from what they're telling us in the textbooks. What we know right now and the theories that we have, evolution and creationism and all this stuff, it's not correct. Okay? It is not correct. I assure you that the extraterrestrials had a large part in how our planet formed, why we are here, and if the governments of the world do not reveal to the public this information by a set date, which I believe is around 2012 or 2013, then the alien beings will make their presence known with or without the consent of the world governments. However, the alien grays, as well as others, although I can't confirm it, I can confirm that the alien grays have continued to take people and animals and plants from the earth in order to probe and research them. So they have continued to do that, and they no longer give any technology to the world governments. I do know that, especially since the world governments broke their agreement. However, we are coming to the brink of true disclosure, because one way or another, whether our governments let us know or it's them who has to let us know, it's going to happen. It's either going to happen with the president coming on the TV and telling the world what the truth is, or it's going to happen by walking outside out of our homes or getting home from work and looking up in the sky and seeing large fleets of crafts sitting overhead in the sky. It's going to happen one way or another. But it did happen. There was a crash. The crash at Roswell was caused due to the gravity conditions on Earth. There was an issue with the anti-gravity technology that the alien disk was using, and there was an issue, and that from what we could tell was the original reason that the disk crashed in the first place. Although they are thousands of years ahead of us, it's not impossible that they also too, like us, can have issues with their craft and machinery. It very, very rarely happens, but the specific day at Roswell, that was one of the times that they had an issue with their craft, and they went down. And we've kept it a secret for years. We've lied to the American people and have continued to lie to the American people and the world. Every time you see a UFO or a new video come out, the world governments are quickly to deny it or completely fabricate a story to explain it. Either way, they are not telling the truth.